What good folks, it's Dark19 and welcome back to another What If Naruto Was a True Prodigy finale. Yeah, I know, short what if, but that's just how it is. So like, comment, subscribe and share, but besides all that, enjoy the video. Chapter 4, Push Comes to Shove, Part 4. Jiraiya was right. This fight did hurt. In fact, the last time he was this badly beaten in a once-sided fight, Tsunade had caught him peeping on her in the hot springs. If he didn't get medical attention fast, Jiraiya was certain death would descend upon him. Pa and Ma were bested and sent back to the mountain, where they would no doubt report this incident to Naruto, if not Tsunade. Man, was she going to be pissed off at him. Damn. And here I was hoping to fix things and set Naruto on the path I wanted for him by proving my superior strength. Oh well, maybe my death will be just as effective, since the brat does appreciate those who act as martyrs for a cause, thought Jiraiya while he let a small chuckle leave his mouth. You shouldn't laugh, Jiraiya. I have won. You have lost. The time has come for you to die, said Pain while a chakra rod was in his hand and ready to stab the Sannin. Only for a sudden orange flash manifest itself, and Naruto was there glaring down at the toad Sannin. I figured as much. Look at what he did to you. It's bad enough you fled when those two kunoichi from that kunoichi-only village came regarding your promise, but you had the never to run after Tsunade tried to beat some sense into your perverted ass. She told you not to come here and do this. You practically committed treason for disobeying her. And for what? To make sure the prophecy stay focused on me and not on him, said Naruto angrily before he glared up at Pain. Kyubi Jinchuriki. You made a fatal error in coming here of all places. And to save him no less, said Pain while Naruto snarled. I didn't come here to save his dumb ass out of the goodness of my heart. I came to bring Uro dumb shit back to Konoha so Tsunade could heal him up, just so she can beat him bloody all over again. Pa and Ma only came here when summoned by the Baka so they could put a Hiraishin tag on him so I could interfere shortly after they got knocked off his dumb ass. Good thing too, since not even Tsunade can repair the loss of his arm if left off for too long. Still, with all the groping he did on women, whether consensual or not, it seems fitting he lose at least one of them, explained Naruto before he kicked Jiraiya in his already broken ribs for good measure. No respect, whispered Jiraiya while Naruto glared at him. Considering you tried to grope my mother when she was slightly drunk one night and thought you could get away with it, you should have lost your raisin-sized balls years ago. Just another reason for me to fight and beat the living shit out of you, exclaimed Naruto before he picked up the Sannin by the back of his coat. You will not be leaving here with him. He knows too much. As do you, said Pain while his 3 remaining 6 paths to Pain surrounded them. And you think you do? Itachi was Jiraiya's spy. He told this idiot everything and passed it along to the Sandaime. After the old shit monkey died, it went to the Gondaime. Not only that, but I have it on good authority that you aren't the true leader of the Akatsuki. Just the puppet. Ironic considering you command quite a few of them around us, said Naruto with Pain showing emotions on his paths with each one scowling. I am a god. My eyes are that of one. You will fall to me, said Pain while Naruto just scoffed. Like I haven't heard that one before today. Also, the masked idiot calling himself Uchiha Madara? He's not the real deal. Just an Uchiha for a student using his name. If he were the real Uchiha Madara, the fool would wear the armor of the man, and not act like a total idiot in front of others from the start, said Naruto while Pain narrowed his eyes at this, and so did Konan. Why tell me this? To divide us? Asked Pain while Naruto shook his head. No. So you are aware of him lying to you. So you can be ready for when he betrays you for the real plan for having all the bijou. Or did you really think he would be honest with you regarding the purpose of the giant statue several rooms away? Asked Naruto, since the toads had been to Ame earlier to scout ahead and saw the statue itself before Jiraiya was even ready to come here. Are you saying it's not a weapon of ultimate power? Asked Konan with Naruto smirking, since he had the toads do some serious investigation work and using shadow clones to spread out through the elemental countries to dig through all dusty libraries. Kurama also helped fill in some blanks too. It took some serious leaps of faith from the fox to disclose things, but it was worth it. I didn't say that. It is a weapon of sorts. A living weapon. Dating back to when the sage was still alive. One that some people think they can control if they have a certain dojutsu in their possession. Ask your fake Madara about it. Ask about the story of Juubi and how it was defeated by the sage. See what his reaction to hearing it is, and see for yourself if I was telling the truth. Hopefully, you too can put the pieces together in relation to that ugly-ass statue and the 9 bijou being needed for it, said Naruto while Pain looked at Konan, who was frowning further. And you wish for us to let you go with Jiraiya as compensation for this information, surmised Konan with Naruto shrugging before the blonde picked up the arm Jiraiya had lost during the fighting. Perhaps. As I mentioned earlier, I have a personal score to settle with Jiraiya regarding his past slights against me. You already got your 10 pounds of flesh off of his perverted ass. Now it's my turn. Think about what I said. And don't worry about Kisame. I killed him 2 days ago before he even made it to Iwa and returned Tsunade to Kiri and the new Mizukage, said Naruto while Pain and Konan were both shocked by this. How? Asked Pain while tempted to use a chakra rod to stab Naruto and force him into submission. Simple. Take away his chakra-eating sword and the man runs out of chakra fast without gaining any back at a later time. That sword feeds him chakra because his own body can't sustain any reserves for long due to a genetic defect his body possesses. Naturally, the man did have chakra, but he can't increase his reserves through training, and what he uses does not come back. It was one of the main reasons he could use Tsunade's ability to eat chakra in the first place and why he liked to fight. Absorbing all that chakra through the sword and no one realizing that the man was a walking chakra-eating factory like his sword. But, if you take away the ability to use it, and go on a full-out fight with someone like me, you lose in the long run, said Naruto while Pain didn't look happy with that piece of information. Kisame was considered a bijou without a tail due to his massive chakra reserves, but no one had suspected he only obtained such reserves through Tsunade. Most assumed the sword took the majority of the chakra eaten off of people and gradually channeled some of it into him. No one assumed the man needed the sword just as much as the sword had a need for Kisame. The shark man basically threw himself into fights knowing his enemies would generate chakra his sword could devour and send to himself to keep his reserves up. Kisame's death wasn't expected, but was no real loss to us either. In times of peace like what I wish to accomplish, people like him fade from existence, or lose all purpose in life. No doubt Kisame preferred the idea of going down fighting and did just that against the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, thought Pain, as he watched Naruto readjust Jiraiya onto his back. I'll see you soon. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if the plant man with your fake Madara was in on the original scheme they kept from you. If you do use your Uzumaki sensory abilities like I have, you will know what I am talking about, cousin, said Naruto while seeing Pain and Konan look at him in surprise. And in a flash, the young blonde-haired Uzumaki was gone. Do you think he was telling us the truth? Asked Konan with Pain narrowing his eyes further in thought. I do not know. But I have a way of finding out. First, I need to replace my lost paths. Once they are replaced, we will get our answers, said Pain while wanting to know the real plan the supposed Madara was keeping from him. Konoha Hospital sometime later, you are a baka. Do you know that? Do you have any idea just how stupid you are for pulling a stunt like that? Going to Ame without my permission. For defying me? Do you know just how much I want to beat you within an inch of your life? Demanded Tsunade angrily at the person in the hospital bed, in a fully body cast, and was at an angle where injured person could not look away. Tsunade-sama, given his condition I don't think, said Shizune, but was silenced by a glare. Do not pity him Shizune. Jiraiya deserved his near-death experience. He's lucky I was even able to save and reattach his arm. With enough physical therapy, he just might get it to work properly. Though personally, I wish Naruto had just left it to rot so he would have one less hand to molest innocent women with, said Tsunade while she continued to glare at Jiraiya with all her anger. You should have let me die, mumbled Jiraiya while Tsunade's glare increased. I should have done a lot of things in my life Jiraiya. One of them should have been your castration for peeping on me in the hot springs instead of just beating you within an inch of your life. I also should have returned to Konoha sooner to help watch over my distant cousin from the Uzumaki clan. Again, a mistake on my part. Hell, I should have every single person our sensei allowed to hurt Naruto be put to the sword in a public execution. All while making the offspring of the soon-to-be executed watch, exclaimed Tsunade, as she had been tempted to do so given her sensei, and former teammate plotted against the boy since he was a baby into being their loyal weapon without the boy even realizing it. The only reason she didn't do such a thing was due to Naruto having no problems with venting his anger out on those who had wronged him in the past. No one in Konoha thought the boy would fight back when he came back from his training trip with Jiraiya. Many assumed the man would successfully mold Naruto into a subservient weapon they could abuse and command at a moment's notice. And as a result, they could sleep soundly at night in the belief their actions would bring down some measure of punishment upon them. It only further enforced their belief that any slight, harm, or abuse aimed at Naruto was the right decision. If it had been considered even remotely wrong, would they not be punished in some shape or form by the village's governing body? Sensei taught you better than to give in to such thoughts and feelings, said Jiraiya while he winced in pain from shifting only slightly to the right. Sensei was a liar and a hypocrite. If he were here, I would have beat him within an inch of his life too. I don't care if he was stronger than either of us. The old man betrayed just about everything my grandfather believed in when founding Konoha. The fact you even support his decisions without hesitation on your part only infuriates me further, stated Tsunade further while she was so tempted to smash her fist into Jiraiya's face. The only reason Tsunade didn't was because it would have killed him. What about Naruto? His coming to save me put the brat's life at risk. I doubt you would have sanctioned that mission or assigned it to him, said Jiraiya while Tsunade smirked. Actually, I did sanction it. And yes, I did assign it to him. Naruto figured your stunt to reverse summon yourself back to the Toad Clan's mountain to heal was a mere detour to get to Ame. He believed that when you made it to Ame to face the leader of the Akatsuki, you would fight the man one-on-one in some attempt to make yourself a martyr. To pass down your stupid beliefs using your own death, if necessary, to leave a lasting imprint on Naruto's mind. Naruto believed you would use Sage Mode and contacted the Toads to tell them that when you did, they were to plant a Hiraishin marker on your back so he could save your ass after being defeated, said Tsunade while Jiraiya grimaced since his former student had outthought him. It was for his own good, Tsunade. The prophecy needed to happen. It has to be Naruto who completes it. Not Nagato. Only one student may fulfill it, said Jiraiya with a look in his eyes that told Tsunade he was obsessed with the damn prophecy. Say for the sake of argument's sake that Naruto is this child of prophecy the elder Toad spoke of years ago. What happens when Naruto does fulfill it? Will he get the praise and recognition with it? The love he rightfully deserves not only from within Konoha after so many years of being hated, but with the rest of the shinobi village? Or, perhaps a certain perverted idiot named Jiraiya Baka, and a poor excuse for Godfather goes on a loud and boastful propaganda campaign to claim it all for himself? To finally cast a large shadow over the world and all the other shinobi in it after being in the shadows of other great shinobi of the past? Questioned Tsunade while Jiraiya refused to look her in the eyes. I deserve the recognition, whispered Jiraiya with resentment while Tsunade scowled. So Naruto does all the hard work. Puts his life on the line. Nearly dies. And for what? Also you can eat it all up saying I trained him, ladies. Spread your legs for me. To every woman around you? He does everything while you mooch off his success and take the so-called fame and glory for yourself, like a leech. Accused Tsunade while Jiraiya was now scowling behind his cast-covered face. I am his sensei. Not to mention his godfather. I can do what I wish and how I wish in regards to him and his development, said Jiraiya with Tsunade looking more pissed off. Not anymore. Naruto has disowned you from your so-called rights as godfather. He did it shortly after he returned to Konoha from training with the Toads while you were off peeping on women at the hot springs. I stamped the order myself. I also made it clear in the brat's records how you failed him as a sensei with your past actions so no one can argue in your defense, said Tsunade while Jiraiya looked livid. You had no right, Tsunade. Protested Jiraiya while Tsunade glared even harder. You forget, Jiraiya, I am an Uzumaki by blood on my grandmother's side. Not only that, but the Senju are cousins to the Uzumaki clan. I can trump your claim of guardianship on that alone since we are related by blood, countered Tsunade with Jiraiya snarling. Said the woman of blood relation who wasn't there for him for over a decade. Jiraiya shot back. Maybe it had something to do with both you and Sensei keeping things from me at the time. I asked Sensei about Kushina and the child after the Kyuubi attacked in a message. Do you know what he said in return? They are fine. Nothing to worry about. Keep on wandering and heal. It wasn't until I met Naruto that I thought Kushina had done a bad job of raising him, only to find that the boy wasn't raised by her at all. Because she was dead. Something Sensei decided not to tell me. Something you conveniently decided not to say or mention after finding me in the bar. You had plenty of time to tell me things in secret, but chose to keep your mouth shut. We both know you did it for selfish reasons. You knew I was close to Kushina and knew if I found out about Naruto, I would have come back, and gotten close to him. You and Sensei wanted him isolated and dependent on your shared presence, said Tsunade while Jiraiya glared back. That's not true. Protested Jiraiya, but it was clear Tsunade didn't believe him. Don't bother denying it, Jiraiya. I read Sensei's journals. Every page. Every verse. Every chapter. Every word written in his handwriting. Everything related to Naruto and how you two tried to screw him over, exclaimed Tsunade to the point of nearly shouting and saw Jiraiya's denial fade away to admittance almost instantly. It had to be done. Don't you get it, Tsunade? Naruto has to be balanced. Not too weak so he crush Konoha's enemies, but not too strong the brat will be able to turn on us without fear of losing. It had to be done. Jiraiya shot back. Bullshit. You didn't need to do what was done to him to make the boy loyal. Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki didn't have to be made known to the council by Sensei. He did that deliberately, knowing it would set off the chain of events needed to make the village hate him. Also, you could swoop in one way or another to provide him the only support you were willing to let Naruto have in life and force your beliefs down his throat. He has the right to choose Jiraiya. You had no right to force your beliefs on him, stated Tsunade while Jiraiya growled angrily. I have every right. I don't care what you say, Tsunade. I am the boy's godfather and still his legal guardian. I can do what I like in terms of dictating the brat's future. Do you know why? Because the boy is mine. Mine to mold. Mine to control. Mine to make sure the prophecy is fulfilled the way it was meant to be fulfilled. And if the end result allows me to mooch off that disrespectful shit and live a life of happiness at his expense until the day I die, then so be it, exclaimed Jiraiya with a hint of madness in his voice and eyes. For years, Jiraiya had been in the shadow of everyone around him. Sensei, Orochimaru, Tsunade, Minato, Kushina. Just to name a few. Even Itachi was getting up there in terms of his own infamy. Had Naruto not crushed him as the fight they had clearly showed or had been declared a missing nin, the Uchiha prodigy would have truly been one hell of a Hokage. But Jiraiya was tired of being in the shadows of others. His first book, Tales of the Gutsy Ninja, was a complete flop. His perverted books were loved, yet some, all the women, hated the fact he peeped on them in order to get his inspiration. Something which he felt should be considered an honor. He proved his greatness with his transparency jutsu and trusty spy network, but was openly ignored for Tsunade's own super strength and her top-notch medical skills. Orochimaru showed off his genius daily before it got all sick and twisted, which only inflated the Snake Sanin's ego to keep holding the bar higher than Jiraiya could reach. Even after it got sick and twisted, people still revered the Snake Man's genius, and left Jiraiya in the dust. Fuinjutsu? Minato and Kushina had it down to the point where they surpassed him on the subject like it was a piece of cake. His transparency jutsu? Spy network? His Icha Paradise series? Mere footnotes in history compared to some of the exploits of others in Konoha. Even some Jounin, who had died bravely in the last Shinobi War, were treated with more respect over himself. And all because they weren't perverts or super perverts like himself. He was tired of it. Where was his fame and glory casting shadow? Where was his army of people giving him respect? Where were the people who look at him with respect and fear? Where were the looks of envy? Of desire by the women? The answer? They were focused on everyone else but him. So when the Toad Elder spoke his prophecy, Jiraiya decided to seize a rare and golden opportunity for himself. To take his prophecy and mold it into something Konoha could control. Could manipulate. Could ensure made them the top village among the Big Five for decades, not centuries to come. It was why he told his sensei about it. Together, they could set things in motion, put pieces on the board who would act accordingly to their actions, and the actions of those around them with just the right nudge. And Jiraiya would be the one to reap the glory behind it when the prophecy was finally fulfilled, with everyone speaking his name with respect. He could and would boast on how it was through his training that Naruto was so strong. Not really a lie, but no one needed to know that particular part, and Jiraiya doubted the brat would say anything to the contrary when the time came. Especially given how good-natured the boy would have been once the Sannin gave him just enough mentoring to make the brat see things his way. No longer would a kunoichi glare at him for his perverted ways or for peeping on them to write his wonderful novels. They would practically invite him into the female section just so they could sit next to the man and rub their bodies against his own. He would have so much female tail around him, it would be incredibly easy for Jiraiya to write 1,000 Icha Paradise books. All the while basking in the glory of his greatness and truly be respected by every one of his peers. But the brat had chosen to be resistant to his method of training. His sensei had assured Jiraiya that the need to prove himself and getting stronger to obtain the approval of those from within Konoha was imprinted into the brat's brain. How all Jiraiya had to do was dangle a few jutsus in Naruto's face, put the gaki down with negative criticism, and make it seem like nothing the boy did was enough. By doing this, they could force the boy's drive to improve himself to focus on getting stronger for Konoha. To fight for Konoha when its enemies came knocking. Never questioning. Never thinking outside of doing what he was doing, unless the village benefited. The only reason Jiraiya and Hiruzen didn't do it to Kushina was because Mito was alive long enough to imprint the Uzumaki way into her. Added Minato's own good-natured self not having the strength to break her beliefs or way of thinking only made trying to control her next to impossible. Hiruzen and Jiraiya had to start fresh with a newborn babe without parents to influence the brat in order to make their various dreams a reality. The Kyuubi attack the night of Naruto's birth was very much unexpected, but the hidden opportunity was too good to pass up. A Jinchuriki babe, no parents, no friends, and no family to influence the boy made him a blank slate for them to write their intentions on. They just didn't believe the stubbornness of the Uzumaki clan, and Kushina would pass on to Naruto despite the many attempts to stamp it out of him, both physically and mentally. By the end of his little rant, Jiraiya could only stare back at a silent and deadly serious Tsunade currently staring down at him with a look he couldn't quite understand. There was disgust, loathing, anger, definitely lots of that, and yet behind all of it was a plan to make him suffer. I see. Well, Jiraiya, I hope you feel your actions were worth it, because now is the time to see what your actions have produced in the coming month, said Tsunade while Jiraiya frowned at her words. What do you mean? Asked Jiraiya with a hint of worry. Simple. I'm going to heal you. Every wound. Past and present. I'm going to use all my medical skills and knowledge to fix your broken perverted body, answered Tsunade while Jiraiya and Shizune looked confused. Not that I am complaining, but, why? Asked Jiraiya in confusion. Because I don't want you having an excuse for when Naruto fights you. So you can't complain when Naruto shows you what your stupidity has done. So Naruto can enjoy taking your fully restored body and breaking it into pieces before leaving it to rot. So I suggest you enjoy the feeling of your body being back to its prime state, Jiraiya, because after Naruto destroys it, I'm not healing you. I'm not saving you. Nor will Shizune. If you want medical aid after Naruto destroys you, I suggest you go seek a back alley doctor, said Tsunade while Jiraiya was shocked by this. You honestly think the brat can win against me when I'm at full strength? Asked Jiraiya with Tsunade giving him a cruel smirk. Of course I do. Have you seen the list of S-ranked nin he's killed recently? And in such a short time? When was the last time you took on so many S-ranked shinobi in such short amount of time and won? Not only that, but he saved your ungrateful ass from suddenly being killed by another tucked away former student with a grudge, said Tsunade with Jiraiya grit his teeth. You mentioned he used the Hiraishin to have us escape pain. How did he do it? Asked Jiraiya while Tsunade smirked at him. He has access to his parents' home, remember? Minato was a genius in Fuinjutsu and so was Kushina. If there is one thing Naruto excels at besides shadow clones, it is in using Fuinjutsu in a way that many would consider to be scary, said Tsunade while Jiraiya looked livid. What? No. He can't have it yet. The Sandaime decreed he couldn't until he was mature enough or was Jounin with considerable experience, exclaimed Jiraiya, knowing his old sensei had done this to make it nearly impossible for Naruto to have access to the vast knowledge left behind for him. He is mature enough. No, thanks to you. As for his rank being a possible issue, I recently promoted him to Jounin. The fact he killed quite a large number of notorious S-ranked nin tells me the brat has accomplished the requirement of getting experience. So you can take senseis and your stipulations regarding the boy and shove it. What's the matter, Baka? Are you now afraid the brat will actually fuck you up in your eventual fight? Countered Tsunade with Jiraiya growling. He's still immature. Throwing a tantrum on how I train him. Bitching about the Bijuu's chakra hurting him. As for him kicking my ass? Ha! Never. Besides, you should be more worried about yourself. He might challenge you for the Hokage seat in a one-on-one fight. Do you really expect him to hold back if that happens? Asked Jiraiya while Tsunade just smirked at him. Fight him? Hardly. Within the next 2 or 3 years, I'll give the damn hat to him to run Konoha how he sees fit, said Tsunade while Jiraiya fumed inside at her doing this. You can't. There is a law in place. One sensei has locked in so Naruto could never have his dream fulfilled, said Jiraiya while Tsunade frowned. And what law is this? I know all the laws in Konoha. There is nothing in the books that says Naruto can't become Hokage, replied Tsunade while let out a small chuckle. Oh really? Check along the lines of requirements. Sensei always had contingencies in place for almost anything. So in the chance Naruto did get nominated to be Hokage, a law was put in place to deny him due to his Jinchuriki status, said Jiraiya while Tsunade was furious about this law. When did this happen? Demanded Tsunade, knowing it could be repealed if the daimyo signed off on it. Shortly after the Gondai Mizukage and Jinchuriki Yagura started his bloodline civil war within Kiri. Sensei used it as an excuse to create a law banning any Jinchuriki in the village from being Hokage. He said, "We can't afford Konoha to have future Hokage who is like the Gondai Mizukage and one too strong to stop or rebel against, with the clan heads and elders supporting the decision." So you see now Tsunade? The dumb brat can't be Hokage. His dream was always meant to be just that. A dream. A hopeless dream he could never accomplish. An impossible task, said Jiraiya while Tsunade seethed for a moment. I can repeal the law, Jiraiya. The elders and Danzo are dead. Homura had his throat slit and Koharu was found with the woman's body hanged using her own intestinal tract. All within their own home. The clan heads won't deny Naruto or his dream. He's more than earned it. Sensei played off their fears. I will change their minds through Naruto's deeds, said Tsunade with Jiraiya glaring at her. You honestly think Sensei didn't think everything through? That there was a chance the next Hokage after him would take this to the daimyo? This action was supported by the fire daimyo himself. You want the law repealed? You have to go right through him and I doubt he will do it. Hiruzen has told him enough about Jinchuriki in general to make the man believe they are too dangerous to be put in a high position of power. The Gondai Mizukage only reinforced this, and despite Sabaku no Gara being Kazekage, we both know the fire daimyo thinks that the wind daimyo is an idiot. Naruto's dream of being Hokage is just that. A dream, exclaimed Jiraiya, since he did not believe the fire daimyo could be convinced to help change that law. We'll see about that, Baka. I still have a trick or two up my sleeve when necessary to deal with daimyos. Plus, Naruto's shinobi record shows he is far from what the Gondai Mizukage ever was when ruling Kiri. All I have to do is show him how our sensei was pour lies into his ears, and the foolishness of supporting those lies will be for him in the future if Naruto is denied becoming Hokage, said Tsunade while Jiraiya just growled at her. As if the fire daimyo will believe you. Sensei was a well-respected shinobi and Hokage during his time, countered Jiraiya while Tsunade smirked. And I have enough evidence and dirt to throw on said respected time to make the fire daimyo realize he was being played like a fool by said man, Tsunade shot back. You would do that to our sensei? Where is your loyalty? Demanded Jiraiya while Tsunade scowled. My loyalty is to my family. My cousin. Both of which you, Danzo, the elders, sensei, and the rest of the village have betrayed multiple times over. Do not speak to me about betrayal, Jiraiya. I am not going to just sit by and let people run my family's legacy into the ground. Nor will I allow those betrayals to stand and to set a cruel precedent letting people believe such things are allowed. Besides, why should I be loyal to Sensei after all of his betrayals to my family and Naruto? Would you? Exclaimed Tsunade while she saw Jiraiya narrow his eyes behind his cast. He was our sensei. He deserved our loyalty. You and Orochimaru spat on it. I am the only one truly deserving to be called his student, spat Jiraiya while Tsunade scoffed. Oh yes. Such a remarkable title. And what has your loyalty to the man gotten you for siding with Sensei and his ridiculous plans? You being in a body cast and soon to be in another one after Naruto finishes breaking it into tiny brittle pieces, said Tsunade, since her reasons for betraying the Sandaime were pure and for good reason, since the man had betrayed her first along with everyone associated with the Senju clan. Orochimaru simply did it out of pure spite because their sensei chose Minato to be the fourth Hokage over him. Not to mention all of the illegal experimentations done that resulted in the Sannin going rogue. The brat can't and won't hurt me. He doesn't have the stomach for it. I'll beat him like I did a year and a half ago, commented Jiraiya in an arrogant tone. Considering his tally of S-ranked missing nin he's killed, I highly doubt it, remarked Tsunade, since she knew the brat was itching for a fight with Jiraiya and training almost every damn day. The boy was becoming a regular juggernaut ready to run over anyone deemed his enemy and wasn't looking back. Kushina had been that way in many aspects. Caring, kind, and loving one moment. But piss her off? She was an evil red-haired demon from which there was no escape. She would run you over to get to her target if your mind, body, and even soul somehow managed to stand in her way. Kushina's power and skill as a kunoichi had been so great, the woman made battle-hardened war veterans weep, and piss themselves at the sound of her name. And now it seemed Naruto was showing himself to be the same way and being a force of unstoppable power capable of doing the same as his mother. Tsunade almost couldn't wait to see the Gaki smash Jiraiya to pieces. Sometime later, Pain was not amused. Not in the slightest. He had approached Zetsu under the impression of a mission and had begun to specify the details of said mission when Konan struck. The paper woman was a master in using any and all things paper related, thanks to her skills honed over the years of training in warfare. As such, it was incredibly easy for Konan to send a paper with a seal on it to the back of the plant man's neck, and cutting off its ability to use chakra. Before either half of Zetsu could say anything about it, once the seal was applied, Pain had grabbed his head, and ripped out the plant creature's soul. And got all of the creature's memories. making Madara believe Zetsu's darker half was in fact the Uchiha's will implanted into it for manipulating events to one day bring down the Big Five shinobi villages. To set all the events of the last 2 generations following the official death of Madara into motion. To one day weaken the shinobi villages one by one to the point where it would be easy for Madara to win against them, even if they all rallied together to form an alliance to defeat the Uchiha. How Madara had secretly planned to come back from the dead using the Rinnegan and Tobi, who was in fact the thought believed dead, Uchiha Obito to do it. Once brought back, restored, enhanced, and ultimate never capable of dying, the most powerful Uchiha in its history would crush the Big Five before betraying Obito at the last moment. Only for Madara himself to be betrayed by Zetsu and the real person who put their will into Zetsu, and it came in the form of woman, who was in fact the Sage of Six Paths' own mother, Otsutsuki Kaguya. Pain also got all the memories of Zetsu and the plan the rabbit goddess herself had given the plant man to use the 9 Bijou to bring about the Juubi in order to bring about her way of peace. Which essentially involved using the moon, an infinite Tsukiyomi, and locked everyone into cocoon-like things forever. This could not be allowed to happen in his Rinnegan eyes. While Pain did want peace, he did not want it to happen this way. For it wasn't peace at all. It was genocide of the entire human race until all that was left was Kaguya herself. What do you want to do? Asked Konan while Pain looked at her. We do not need the others. They were mere agents to get us what we want. First, we remove Tobi from the equation. Once done, we will hunt the Jinchuriki ourselves from most power to weakest, said Pain while Konan frowned. Even if it means killing your cousin? Uzumaki Naruto? Asked Konan with Pain just nodding once. Uzumaki Naruto may be my cousin to some extent, Konan, but I won't let such a thing stop our dream of peace becoming a reality. It cannot be stopped simply because the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is part of something long since broken and scattered to the winds years ago. We will bring about our version of things, but without inference from outside forces seeking to manipulate us, said Pain while Konan nodded, though she was unsure how they could do this without the other members of the Akatsuki and the rings outside of their own and Tobi. Shall I contact Tobi? Asked Konan while Pain nodded. Tell him I have an assignment for him. One only his unique talents can provide in moving the plan forward and back on track, said Pain, knowing he would need to draw the man in close. He might suspect something, said Konan while Pain looked completely calm. I'm sure he will be suspicious. But it is a risk we have to take, said Pain while knowing the masked Uchiha's ability to phase out for a short period of time and teleporting would need to be negated first. I hope you know what you are doing, Nagato, said Konan, knowing that for all of the masked man's display of stupidity in front of others, Tobi was far from stupid. So do I still, one should not underestimate him. We have done that for too long. In the event I should lose to him, I have one final assignment for you. One only you can carry out, said Pain while Konan nodded. I'll help any way I can, said Konan while Pain gave her a small barely noticeable smile on his path's face. I know you will, Konan. This is my command should the Uchiha defeat me, said Pain before he told her what was to happen afterward should the Uchiha win. Konoha, sometime later, you can still back down, Gaki. Admit I'm your better and we can stop this right now with your pride, somewhat left intact, said Jiraiya with a smirk. Why? So you can go around boasting and bragging about how you supposedly best me in combat while trying to swoon some whore in the red light district so she'll put her diseased mouth on your junk? No, thanks. You already have enough STDs in your body to be labeled a biological weapon. We don't need you adding more to a possible mutation and outbreak, said Naruto while Jiraiya scowled at him. You sound like your mother, brat. If she had just kept out of my relationship with Minato when growing up, I could have made him into quite the ladies' man, commented Jiraiya with Naruto rolling his eyes. Yeah. I'm sure my mother would love the idea of marrying a womanizing adulterer with a small army of STDs running around in his system. Or the fact, if you had your way, I would have several dozen, if not 100 half-brothers, and half-sisters born from loveless sexual escapades, said Naruto sarcastically while Jiraiya summoned Ma and Pa to get into his imperfect sage mode. Both had been informed of the match ahead of time, and while both would have preferred to fight for Naruto's, and the winning, side, they had to do their duty in fighting for their senior summoner on the contract. Not that it mattered. Pa and Ma knew their presence on Naruto would result in the boy being unable to use sage mode properly. Besides, they had seen firsthand his ability to get around the imperfection despite the difficulty of doing it, thanks to Minato's seal holding a certain 9-tailed bijou within Naruto. There is nothing wrong with my way of doing things. Everyone else is wrong in judging me for how I do things, said Jiraiya while Naruto gave him a flat stare. That has got to be one of the most stupidest things I have heard come out of your mouth since I came back to Konoha. It is all the way up there with you ditching me for whores and you throwing me into a nearly endless ravine to access the fox's chakra, said Naruto with Jiraiya looking unapologetic for the act. Sink or swim, brat. It's the way of life. If you can't handle it, I suggest you drown quickly so others don't get dragged down by your dead weight, said Jiraiya with Naruto entering his version of Sage mode now. And unlike Jiraiya, it was perfect. The only thing about to be dead around here is you, said Naruto before getting into his toad fighting stance while Jiraiya did the same. Tough talk for a brat barely reaching puberty, said Jiraiya mockingly. Says the man who never achieved it after reaching his twilight years. The only thing you can do early is age and ejaculate into an unsatisfied woman, said Naruto while Jiraiya was seething at the insult to his male pride. I'm going to enjoy hurting you, said Jiraiya while his eyes narrowed. Says the man who was ducking me and going on a suicide mission to get out of our fight you had originally wanted from the start. Naruto shot back before he was gone in a mere second before his fist was barely caught by Jiraiya. The impact forced the man back several feet while still holding the fist. You call that fast? Your father could move faster and hit harder too, said Jiraiya while Naruto smirked before leaping away from the Sannin. I know. I was just taking it easy on you at first. Being old and frail at your age, I felt a sudden moment of pity and compassion for you. It's gone now, said Naruto mockingly before he got serious and moved even faster. Shit. Thought Jiraiya with wide eyes and suddenly felt a pain in his sides from an elbow blow to the ribs. Jiraiya stumbled and nearly fell over from the blow, but managed to stabilize himself. If just barely. Before he could even realize it, a kick hit Jiraiya in the face, followed by a knee to the spine, and finished up with an elbow to the chest. Each one causing incredible pain for the Sannin, and the impact from the ground further proved to Jiraiya his former apprentice was no longer holding back. You were always a fool and a loser, Jiraiya. You spent so much of your time focusing on the pleasures of the flesh. So much time wasted peeping on women, using others for your own personal gain, and trying to get people to see you as something outside of being the pre-verbal parasite. But people aren't as blind as you think, Jiraiya. They saw you for what you were in life, said Naruto while walking around Jiraiya like an animal stalking his prey with calculating eyes. And what does that say about you? People must see a demon when they look at you, right? Asked Jiraiya while slowly getting off the ground. I said they saw the truth when looking at you. With me? They're blind as a bat's, said Naruto with Jiraiya laughing and spitting out some blood in his mouth. Is that so? Nearly an entire village sees you as a demon. As a monster. They can't be all blind. Maybe they do see something about you that you can't see about yourself? Asked Jiraiya while Naruto scoffed. And how exactly am I a demon? A monster? If it is simply for holding the Kyuubi, then they are just as stupid as they are blind. Just because I hold a bijou doesn't make me one of them. I am not some weapon or tool or pet you can command and expect to obey without question, replied Naruto before Jiraiya moved to hit him. Only for the Sannin strike to be blocked by Naruto, who countered by punching Jiraiya just as quickly. That's where you are wrong, brat. You are a weapon. A tool. That is what Jinchuriki are to their respected shinobi villages. They fight and kill like good little attack dogs and are punished when they don't follow orders, said Jiraiya before he went on the attack and tried to land a decisive blow against Naruto. Keyword being tried. So my mother was one too? And Uzumaki Mito? Asked Naruto before dodging another arm strike and viciously broke Jiraiya's elbow, followed by kicking the man in the back 3 times before throwing him onto the ground. Of course they were tools. The only difference was neither one knew it and were too strong to remold into the image others wanted them to become such things. Despite her old age, Mito made sure Kushina wasn't turned when my sensei became Hokage. Even when she grew up to be a kunoichi, Kushina was untamable thanks to Mito's influence, and later with my student when they fell in love, snarled Jiraiya while hating the concept of the word and how he felt it poisoned his student. What do you have against love? I thought you loved Tsunade. So why say the word like it was something foul? Asked Naruto while Jiraiya glared and charged at the younger man with the intent to kill. I don't love Tsunade. I love her body. The body she had when younger. The breasts, the ass, and the legs that show off her physical beauty. Ever since I first laid eyes on her in that hot springs, naked from head to toe, I loved the idea of being able to mount that fine piece of senju tail until my balls were drained. But she never gave me the time of day. She had eyes for that sissy boy Dan, and all because he believed in the same things she did. When my student fell in love with Kushina, but does he exploit her love she gave in return? Does he try to act like a real man and take charge of his home? Put his future wife in her place? Does he use his ever-growing reputation as a highly skilled jounin and soon-to-be Hokage to sleep with multiple women on the side? No. He stayed faithful to her. Because he was in love. So yes, I hate the concept of love as you, Minato, and even Tsunade see it, said Jiraiya, who finally managed to land a punch on Naruto's face. Only to find it didn't do much. In fact, the younger man's face barely moved from the blow Jiraiya had delivered. Not only that, but unknown to the Sannin himself, Naruto allowed Jiraiya to hit him in order to gauge the man's overall strength. He wasn't impressed. Is this it? Is this all the strength you have? I was expecting you would at least move my body back a good 2 inches. But this? I didn't even feel it, commented Naruto before he batted away the fist of the stunned Sannin and kicked Jiraiya in the chest. That was my hardest punch. I put everything into that hit. How? How did you take it and not lose your head? Demanded Jiraiya while seething at his failed attempt to kill him in one blow had failed. Simple. I'm stronger than you. While you spent your days peeping on women, sleeping with whores, and drinking heavily at bars, I actually bust my ass to get to this level. Had you trained me properly like a true sensei would, you would have seen the writing on the wall. But like a fool, which everyone called you when growing up, you chose to be a lazy bastard. I was right when I said Orochimaru would have made a better sensei over you. Hell, maybe my father could have helped curb your former teammate's own lust for the darker powers, and notions of immortality, since Minato would have been his legacy to the world when dead. Alas, we will never know. Not that you would have allowed it. I get the feeling you would have killed my father out of spite for Orochimaru if that were to happen, said Naruto while Jiraiya spit out more blood and rubbed his chest. Of course I would have killed Minato. That boy was a genius. A prodigy one sees and comes around once in 100 years. Whoever trained him would gain fame, glory, and the recognition for decades to come. Do you really think I would let such a thing like that be given to that pale-faced freak of nature? It was bad enough Sensei favored Orochimaru all those years ago, but I would have drawn the line at my student not being mine, said Jiraiya while the look of madness was in his eyes and Naruto narrowed at it. You sound as if the old monkey had planned on it after telling him of Minato's potential as a shinobi, said Naruto with Jiraiya's smirk increasing. Actually, he did just that. My former teammate was so well loved by Sensei at the time that any other choice for master and apprentice relationship was out of the question. I told him to hold off until after the boy was Chunin to make a decision on who would take the boy as an apprentice in the future. So I spent that time running a little smear campaign against Orochimaru using my spy network. Falsifying various reports about my former teammate's actions. I had my spies spreading all sorts of lies about him, about his sexuality, his preferences, and even possible hints of his loyalty being put into question. By the time Minato became Chunin, I had convinced my sensei to have me take your father as an apprentice while Danzo offered to take Orochimaru into his root program, said Jiraiya while Naruto narrowed his eyes at him. I see. So because of you and your clearly inferior ego, if not insecurity, Orochimaru of the Sannin was sent into the arms of Shimura Danzo. Right into the hands of the emotion-hating war hawk who twisted your former teammate into the sadistic psychopath Konoha has, until recently, been shaking in fear over. And for what? Also the big whiny baby named Jiraiya could get his bottle? Asked Naruto before landing a few punches and kicks to various parts of Jiraiya's body and making the man stumble. Minato was mine. The prophecy stated as much. Anyone I trained is mine to do with as I see fit. Don't you get it? The prophecy bringing about peace with me as the sensei of the child of prophecy is all that matters. My name will last throughout the ages as the very person who trained him. I will have my great legacy and my shadow stretch far and wide throughout the ages of time. Nothing will stop it. Do you hear me, brat? Nothing, exclaimed Jiraiya with the madness in his eyes and the last bit of sanity snapping like a rope being stretched to its limits. Actually, there is someone who can stop it. Me, replied Naruto before he was upon Jiraiya and began to ruthlessly beat the man to a pulp. No genjutsu. No jutsus of any kind. Just all-out fists, arms, feet, and legs beating up the Sannin without mercy. Ma and Pa had long since left Jiraiya during his little rambling of a speech and decided to leave the fool to the beating he so rightfully deserved. Not that Jiraiya would sense them leaving. The man's imperfect sage mode was so imperfect, he wouldn't be able to sense it was gone until he did something that required the use of such a form. By the time Naruto had stopped beating the Sannin into the ground, the body was too broken to move, or even make a twitch of any kind. It wasn't surprising when it was over that Naruto had gone to such lengths to beat Jiraiya into oblivion. After all the things he had done, the actions he performed, which caused the actions of others to flourish and cause unimaginable pain to others around him. Without remorse. Without any form of empathy toward the people he harmed as a result. And for what? Also, he can exploit the lives of women around him and use his so-called fame and glory to sleep with as many of them as possible? Hence why Naruto poured all his hatred into those blows. All his pain, suffering, rage, and anger into each hit. Each blow designed to destroy Jiraiya physically, so when the man did regain his mental faculties, they would shortly be broken, knowing his former student had brought him low. That both had fought at their best and it was the student who came out on top. And without any form of excuse Jiraiya could try to conjure up in order to save face. Damn Gaki. And I thought I had beat him bloody when he peeped on me all those years ago in the hot springs, commented Tsunade while she saw Jiraiya was in even worse shape since that moment in time so long ago. You already beat him within an inch of his life. The only way to top it was to beat him within a fraction of that. Not to mention he deserved it, said Naruto while knowing Jiraiya was just barely clinging to life and would soon die if Tsunade didn't stabilize in the next 2 seconds. Literally. True, but even still, I didn't think there was any way you, or anyone else for that matter, could top what I did. Of course, you were an Uzumaki on your mother's side. The clan was always said to do the impossible when others said it was impossible, said Tsunade while she, very reluctantly, stabilized Jiraiya despite part of her whispering that the man should just be left there to rot and die. Especially after everything he just admitted to Naruto and her during this fight. What Jiraiya didn't know was that prior to his arrival to the training ground, Naruto had placed a very large and powerful seal around them. One which Tsunade activated after her old teammate arrived when his back to the woman. It was designed so everyone in it would be compelled to speak the truth about a subject, no matter what the topic. Naruto had wanted to know just how low Jiraiya had sunk so he could justify beating the idiot the way he had just done now. While Naruto had suspected Jiraiya was one of the lowest forms of life in existence, he didn't expect the Sannin to have fallen this low. To think, do the man's childish actions, spurred by some stupid prophecy, the fool had caused in his former teammate to join Root. As a result, Orochimaru became twisted by the man running it, which eventually caused the Sannin to go rogue for a various number of reasons. One of which was the Sandaime choosing Jiraiya's student and Naruto's future father as Hokage. Even worse, Orochimaru could have been Minato's sensei, which could have prevented the Sannin from becoming so twisted, and so obsessed with immortality to going down such a dark path. One that Naruto suspected Danzo had a hand in nurturing and the Sandaime Hokage himself encouraged down the road, if only to make sure his former student channeled his newfound interests for the betterment of Konoha as a whole. Heal him as best you can, Tsunade, but not too much. I don't want him being a shinobi anymore. He has no right to be one after the shit we just heard him say, said Naruto while Tsunade could only agree with him. In truth, Jiraiya's time as a shinobi was ending. The man had lost the respect of his peers, his fellow shinobi, and the next generation of Konoha itself. His spy network was messed up with internal problems, he was hated by Kunoichi in and out of Konoha, and the man had not been in an actual fight in years, so his skills were no doubt rusty. Even if Tsunade could fix all of the damaging injuries Naruto had just inflicted on Jiraiya, which was a big if at the moment, the perverted fool would never be worthy of being a Konoha shinobi ever again. It was best to just leave the man in a crippled and semi-vegetative state in the hospital where he could slowly wither away, and ultimately die. All the while trapped within his own body, unable to move, and realize just how big a fuck up he truly was before the end came for him. That was the punishment Naruto wanted for Jiraiya. The punishment the man ultimately deserved for his actions. For his crimes. Because of him and his selfishness to make a possible prophecy come true, the world had been slowly thrown into chaos. Had the man just been responsible, actually took his own training, and the training of his own students seriously, things would have been different. Without question. But the man didn't act responsible in any shape or form. He didn't train seriously. He did not train any of his 3 students. His actions set things in motion for darker powers to make their moves and bring about pain and suffering to the world. So it was only natural that the man suffering such an end. To be alone. In the darkness of a room. No one to visit. No one to see. No one to speak to anyone about anything. Unable to move without feeling incredible pain. A true hell if there ever was one. And it was one Naruto believed Jiraiya deserved with all of his being. Chapter 5 Push Comes to Shove Part 5 Pain was dead. Not just his paths. But the man himself. To Uchiha Obito aka Tobi of the Akatsuki, it was of not great loss. The man was dying for some time now and was only alive due to his Uzumaki genetics. What did matter was the Uzumaki had somehow learned of the Moon Eye plan, via Zetsu's death, and decided to ruin it. Not only did the fool Nagato manage to weaken him during their fight, but stalled him long enough for his paper bitch of a woman to take the Rinnegan eyes once belonging to Uchiha Madara, and leave Ame for Konoha. He would have pursued Konan, but Nagato had used the last of his chakra to create a barrier seal tied to his life force that prevented him from leaving it. Even the Uchiha's own Kamui ability was proven ineffective and had to wait until Nagato died, which sadly was several days. Damn Uzumakis and their seals. It was any wonder their clan was destroyed. Zetsu had done his job well over the years in manipulating certain events to bring fear to the hearts and minds of others when it came to that clan. The Uzumaki and their intimate mastery over Fuinjutsu would have been a threat to the overall plan, at least according to the plant creature, and he had gone from village to village to spread fear of the clan. All in order to make them ally against the Uzumaki clan and prevent their skills in Fuinjutsu from being allowed to grow. Only now, it seemed that skill had come back to bite him, and the Moon Eye plan right in the ass for one last act of defiance. By the time Obito got free from the seal barrier, he was sure Konan had already made it to Konoha. Going anywhere else would be foolish, and told them everything she knew. Considering she was Nagato's right hand and knew about him being the true leader, Obito knew he would have to act on his own at this point. He would have taken out all the heavy hitters from each shinobi village in order to truly break them long enough for him to get all 9 bijou into the statue. The Uchiha had hoped to revive Madara to make things easier in crushing the future opposition of the big 5 shinobi villages, but without the Rinnegan, or the Edo Tensei for that matter, Obito was on his own. Not that it mattered. Obito was strong enough to handle them all should a fight break out against them should they band together. Once all his enemies were crushed, Obito would form the Juubi once more, and use his eyes to take control of it in order to seal the creature into his body. With his newfound power, the Uchiha would use the moon itself to cast a worldwide Tsukiyomi, and bring the world under his control. A world where Rin lived and they could be together. A world without Kushina. A world without her son or the Uzumaki clan. A world without people like Danzo, Orochimaru, and even Kakashi. A world where all things were perfect to him and him alone. We have been doing this in the wrong order. We have been targeting the weakest to the strongest of the bijou. We should have done it in reverse. So that is what I will do. With the Kyuubi under my control, I can have it attack Konoha within its own walls, and Go or Kumo next. Once done, I will target the other shinobi villages until they are broken, and disorganized with their Jinchuriki dead or badly wounded. Once I obtain all 9 beasts, I will seal them into the statue here in Ame while under my Sharingan's power so there will be no screw-ups, said Obito to himself before leaving via Kamui. He never noticed blackish gray tone looking more like a statue was watching him silently before it went poof to report his findings. Konoha Hokage Tower sometime later, Konan was a big help with this intel. To think Uchiha Obito was alive all this time and even Madara himself to a point, commented Tsunade while reading the report Viki had given her after Konan had submitted to his interrogation. Konan even placed a preservation jar with the Rinnegan into the Hokage's hands as a show of good faith of her willingness to cooperate. Everything she knew and Nagato knew from the past to their recent actions had been written up into multiple reports for the Hokage to read. The Yondaime's second student going rogue. And all because of what those white Zetsu creatures impersonating Kiri Nin did to his third one. Madara must have realized in order to turn Obito against Konoha, he would have to take away what mattered most to his new student. That's just cruel, said Viki with a sigh, since it was cruel to turn someone into a monster just so you can carry out a plan you think you made up, but really didn't. What do we do with the eyes she gave us? Asked Naruto, who felt it was necessary to hear what became of his father's remaining 2, and thought to be deceased, students. Hard to say. We could destroy them since Obito wants them badly for his plan to revive Madara and use his former sensei to put us on the defensive. Or, I could transplant them into someone who can handle them, said Tsunade with Naruto looking surprised, and so did Viki. Not to question your judgment or ideas Hokage-sama, but the latter you just mentioned doesn't seem to be a wise choice here. Those eyes are said to be the most powerful if not most legendary dojutsu the world has ever known. The Rinnegan is said to once belong to the eyes of the sage himself. To give someone those eyes would be risky. Countered Viki with Naruto nodding. Yeah. And who would you choose? You can give it to the nicest guy around and he could still use those things with the intent of being a real power-hungry jerk thinking they could do whatever they wanted. Added Naruto with Tsunade nodding since it was true. Plus, from what Tsunade knew about the origin of the eyes in question, anyone with them could come to the belief they were invincible. Considering what happened, how the user of these eyes had called himself a god intent on bringing pain to the world, it was no real surprise. Still, she had one candidate though whether he could take the change or the power that went with it was debatable. When Konan delivered these eyes, she mentioned how after saving Jiraiya Baka's stupid life, you told her along with pain that he was in fact your cousin. A fellow member of the Uzumaki clan like yourself, said Tsunade with Naruto nodding and frowning at the same time. Yeah. I just wish he didn't go down the route he did. What was Uro-Sennin thinking when he didn't take them with him from Ame? An actual member of the Uzumaki clan and he could have brought to Konoha. My mother could have had a fellow clansman to talk to when growing up here. His presence here could have shifted the events when the fox was freed by Uchiha Obito on the night of my birth. After my birth, even with him raising me due to blood relation if my parents didn't survive, said Naruto while he was inwardly cursing Uro-Sennin for his stupidity and arrogance. He was no doubt thinking with his penis. As usual. Which would explain why his IQ is so small since it matches the size, remarked Tsunade while Ibiki winced at the insult and felt as if almost all the pride males everywhere had was just downsized considerably. Naruto didn't look the least bit affected by the statement, which made Ibiki conclude the boy was well secure in his masculinity on all fronts. You were about to make a point, Hokage-sama, commented Ibiki while Tsunade was looking at the jar on her desk holding the eyes of the sage. Yes. When Konan came here with the eyes, she asked that if we decided to give them to someone, it would be a person she believed would use them wisely, said Tsunade, as she saw the two shinobi in front of her look on with interest. Really? Who did she recommend? Asked Naruto curiously. You. She recommended you, Naruto, answered Tsunade while Naruto looked shocked. Me? Seriously? Asked Naruto while Ibiki looked like he was just told everything he did in life never mattered and he had wasted years doing what he did best. Either that or the man was envisioning the horrible pranks Naruto would cook up with the power of those eyes at his command. Maybe both. Yes. She sees greatness in you. Konan believes in you, Naruto. While respectfully not in the way of bringing the everlasting peace Jiraiya's stupid prophecy foretold, she believes you can at the very least keep things with all 5 shinobi villages balanced. I'm inclined to agree with her. After all the good you have done, cleaning up Jiraiya's mess, exposing Danzo, Orochimaru's death, Kabuto's death, the vast majority of the Akatsuki being killed off, is it any surprise? Answered Tsunade while Naruto looked at the eyes in the jar with a sense of hesitation. This wasn't like stealing the Forbidden Scroll incident where he opened it and learned a jutsu to graduate. No. This was worse since these eyes had the power to do all sorts of crazy shit and all at the command of whoever had them in their eye sockets. Do you trust me with these things? These are the eyes said to belonging to the Sage of 6 Paths after all, warned Naruto, showing a great deal of maturity for his age. Clearly the toads had taught him well. Be respectful when using power unless you wish to be corrupted by it. Strangely enough, I do trust you. Besides, if what Konan said is true, our enemy will not stay delayed for much longer. From what the woman informed us about Obito, he was badly injured, so it will take time to recover. We can use this time to transplant the eyes into you and use them against him when the attack comes, said Tsunade with Naruto nodding, and decided that if these people, one of which was a former Akatsuki, were all willing to trust him with the sage's eyes, why not? I would also provide additional security on the Forbidden Scroll. If these eyes were part of a larger plan to bring back the real Madara, I'd bet 10 years worth of ramen the second part involves the Forbidden Scroll, said Naruto while Tsunade agreed, since using both of those mentioned parts would spell complete doom for anyone opposing Obito if he got either one and using them together. I take it you have something in mind? Asked Tsunade with Naruto nodding. I do, but I need the blood of Uchiha Obito or a close family relative you have on file to make this work, said Naruto with Tsunade raising an eyebrow. I'll get you a sample of the blood on file, but it won't be much. After the Uchiha clan was wiped out by Itachi, Danzo and the elders pushed for all the stored Uchiha blood at the hospital be destroyed since there was no point in having so much from dead people, replied Tsunade while Naruto frowned. Let me guess, he oversaw the operation? Asked Naruto with Tsunade frowning. Yes. Though we have confirmed Danzo did destroy most of the blood from all of the documents found in his root base underneath Konoha. I would wager he gave some to Orochimaru to help with the experiment regarding that abomination for a hidden arm he was concealing, said Tsunade, knowing that whatever samples Danzo gave Orochimaru was not enough for the Sannin to use for his own personal use. I just need enough of what is on file. Barely a vial of it. His medical records have a seal holding some, right? Offered Naruto, since he knew medical records also held a single vial of the blood taken from the patient's last physical. Yes. Though we'll have to dig through the medical archives to obtain it. Up until now, the man has been presumed dead after Kakashi and fellow teammate Rin reported his death. Though the file should be there. I did the physical myself and drew the blood in it, so getting the vial shouldn't be difficult, said Tsunade with Naruto nodding. I'll do the security measure first. Once done, you can begin the transplant, said Naruto, since securing the scroll of seals first was the best choice. Besides, Tsunade would need time to prepare for the operation for transplanting the eyes anyway. Konoha sometime later, Obito was not in a good mood. The phantom pain from his injuries were acting up. He was able to get some of the white Zetsu parts to replace what was damaged during the fight with Nagato's 6 paths and Konan's interference. Unfortunately, the parts Obito needed were not up to par with what he had prior to the injuries sustained in the battle. The paper bitch had sabotaged his entire supply of body parts and organs, including his own supply of Sharingan eyes he obtained when the Uchiha clan was killed before Danzo's root had come to take the rest. No matter. Once he had the forbidden scroll of sealing, the Uchiha intended to unleash a whole shitstorm down upon Konoha before targeting the other shinobi villages. He just needed to subdue some of the stronger Jounin-level shinobi in the village before he used them for his sacrifice to bring back a few notorious S-ranked nin of legend. One would be Uchiha Madara, of course, but Obito wanted some extra muscle he could call upon to protect him when getting all 9 bijou sealed into the statue. Using Kamui, the Uchiha entered the Hokage's office knowing she wasn't there so late at night unless it was a major emergency. Walking to the safe where the scroll of sealing was located, Obito easily used the combination he knew would open it. In a rare act of sheer stupidity to those wearing the hat, the combination had never been changed since the time of the Shodaime Hokage. The combination itself was meant to be known only to each Hokage in power, but there were times when a certain select group of people learned it as a sign of trust by the Hokage in question. But in Obito's case, it was in the form of Orochimaru when he joined the Akatsuki after he went wrong. The Sandaime during the Third Shinobi War had planned to retire and was going to name Minato the Yondaime Hokage in the coming weeks. Orochimaru had gone wrong soon after before joining the Akatsuki and unknowingly revealed it to him under the powerful hypnosis the Sharingan can create on someone. He could have used it to get the Edo Tensei, but at the time, Obito didn't know Orochimaru even knew how to use the jutsu. It wasn't until the Sannin used it when attacking the Sandaime did the man realize what a lost opportunity it had been on his end. One he now planned to fix here and now. Only this time, the end result would favor him. Outside of Konoha's secret location, Naruto smirked when he saw Obito appear in front of him. A look of shock behind his masked face was no doubt there since he was looking around frantically. No doubt he had just touched the forbidden scroll of seals and the next, was found here. No sooner had the masked Uchiha appeared did Naruto give the signal and a barrier went up around the two men. Hello Tobi. Or should I call you by your real name, Uchiha Obito? Asked Naruto while Obito glared at him behind his mask. So you know, commented Obito before his eyes widened when he saw the blonde's eyes and the fact they were no longer blue. Konan told us a lot about you. Not to mention the toads are excellent for spying. I just needed to have some of them who are indigenous to Ame hoping around. No one is the wiser. Not even you. They have been spying on you and the Akatsuki for some time and telling me all about your movements. Add to the fact Nagato killed Zetsu after ripping out his soul, I know the truth about the reason behind your actions, and how you are just a puppet for the real mastermind behind this, said Naruto with Obito scowling before he removed his mask to reveal his scarred face. Madara does not control me. My actions are my own, said Obito while Naruto scoffed. Madara? I never said it was Madara. Hell, he was being used like a puppet too. Black Zetsu was never Uchiha Madara's will. It was Kaguya, the mother of the Sage of Six Paths. She tricked Madara into thinking Zetsu's will was his own. Zetsu was going to use you, Madara, and everyone else they could get their hands on to fulfill her ambition to one day return to the land of the living after being sealed away by her own sons during their battle, explained Naruto while Obito narrowed his eyes at him. No. The Moon Eye plan would have brought peace. Zetsu explained it to me in great detail. There is no way he could make that up, said Obito while Naruto shrugged. Oh, the Moon Eye plan was real. But you wouldn't be the one to use it. Kaguya would be the one to use it. She would trap us all in the infinite Tsukiyomi just like you wanted to do. But unlike your version of things, those who oppose her would either be dead, or be trapped in the Genjutsu living a lie created within own minds until eventually, we die. Answered Naruto while Obito looked livid at his words before calming down slightly. It doesn't matter. The Moon Eye plan will bring about peace to the world. With it, I will be able to have Rin by my side. With it, my dream will become reality. With it, no one I care about will die while those who are insignificant will not longer exist, exclaimed a now clearly deranged Obito while Naruto frowned. Even after hearing the truth, you still want to go through with this. All for what? A girl that is dead and can't come back to you unless she is an illusion? A fake made from your own imagination and memory of her? What happens when you get tired of her, Obito? When the joy from being in the illusion and lie become too painful to handle whenever you see the fake standing there? Will you destroy the illusion? The genjutsu itself? When the lie becomes more painful than the truth? Asked Naruto while Obito looked angry and was not amused. My world will become real. My world is all that matters. Rin is all that matters. I will have Rin back. One way or another, exclaimed Obito while Naruto scoffed again. If that were true, why not use the Edo Tensei to bring her back? You could have tricked Orochimaru into doing it and wrestled control of her from him using your Sharingan. Hell, you could have asked him for the hand signs for the Edo Tensei. But you didn't. Why? Because you know if you do, the real Rin would disapprove of your actions. You want to live a lie because the fake Rin wouldn't care and you can lie right to her face every time if the question ever came up. Face it, Obito. You want to live a lie because the truth is far too painful to live in and the very thought of ending your life for the next world scares you even more. All because we both know that if you did die one way or another, the place where Rin now resides, you cannot enter. Ever, said Naruto harshly while Obito seethed in rage at his words. Since deep in his heart, Obito knew the words spoken by Naruto were completely true. Deep down, the Uchiha did fear his own death. After all he had done. The things he had helped orchestrate. The lives taken. Good lives. Honest lives. Obito knew where his soul was going upon his death. It was going south. The deep south. Rin was no doubt located in heaven and happy there. He could have used Edo Tensei once learning it or used his Sharingan to make Orochimaru do it before taking control afterwards. But as Naruto had said, Rin would have seen his actions and disapproved of them. Yelled at him. Screamed at him. She would have denounced his actions. Denounced their friendship. She would have called him a monster. So yes, Obito chose to create a lie. Create a false Rin. Simply because the fake one would not care. Would not hate him. Would not judge him. Because the lie was easier to handle over the truth this world produced. But was he going to openly admit it? And to his late sensei's brat? Hell no. Shame, your opinion means nothing to me. All that matters is my ambition becomes real and Rin is by my side. While you, your father, mother, and every other person opposing me are removed from existence, exclaimed Obito while Naruto smirked. Then come at me. I have something you want. Something you need. Not only the fox in my belly, but the eyes of the sage himself. This barrier will ensure no one interferes in our fight. It will also nullify your ability to use Kamui just in case you decide to act like a fucking coward and retreat. Just like you did with my father when he bested your stupid ass, said Naruto while Obito clenched his teeth and fist. And yet I was the one to walk away from the fight alive. Not him. His victory over me was hollow. He died. His wife died. You were left to rot in a village that hates your guts. That will keep hating your guts, even if you become Hokage. I imagine it will be difficult to rule over a village that would sooner burn itself to the ground over accepting you as its ruler, said Obito mockingly while Naruto shrugged. Well, if the people don't like me as Hokage, they can either kill themselves or leave the village and go live in a cave. When it comes to the arrogant, the bigots, and the overall assholes Konoha has produced, I honestly don't give a fuck about them. If they were to be attacked right here, right now by an invading force, I would simply let them die. I would spare only those who were worth sparing, said Naruto openly without shame in his heart. Your parents would be disappointed in you, commented Obito with Naruto smirking at him. Not really. They both left a piece of themselves inside of the seal as a failsafe just in case things went south in holding the bijou at bay. I told them everything that happened to me during my childhood and everything else following it. They agree with me in my way of thinking that I should protect only people worth protecting and say fuck you to everyone else in the village. Oh, by the way, the fuck you part I just quoted? That was addressed to you too. In fact, my mother went on a rant calling you a crybaby bitch, who wouldn't be able to satisfy any woman, let alone Rin, because of your inadequately small dick was equipped with a quick shot motion attached to it while her hair came alive. It was actually quite a sight, said Naruto while seeing Obito looking even more enraged. I should have slowly killed your bitch of a mother after I ripped the fox from her gut, exclaimed Obito angrily. Yeah, well, as she so adequately put in her rant, fuck you too, said Naruto with Obito now moving to injure and take the eyes from the blonde Uzumaki. Only for Naruto to grab the offending hand reaching for the eyes. You're fast. But I fought and trained under people much faster, said Naruto before he was stabbed in the gut by a kunai in Obito's free hand. They should have trained you to be smart instead of fast. I'm taking the fox from you and I'm taking those eyes, stated Obito, but was shocked when the Naruto in front of him went proof in front of him. It was a shadow clone. And found a pair of hands grabbing his ankles to yank him into the ground. They did. In fact, they trained me to be both smart and fast. Shame it couldn't be said for you and your clan. One would think that the student of the Yondaime Hokage and Uchiha Madara himself would have actual brains to go with his so-called strength. Of course, it is no real wonder you are considered to be a disappointment, said Naruto after popping up from the ground and staring at Obito with amusement. I have more knowledge and skill in my right hand than you do in your entire body, said Obito before getting out of the hole after using his chakra to burst out of it violently. That might be true, if not for the fact masturbation doesn't count as a skill. If it did, you would not doubt be considered a prodigy in the field, mocked Naruto while Obito's face now matched the color of his eyes and charged the Uzumaki in a fit of rage. I'm going to fucking murder you. I'm going to rip the fox out and turn it on Konoha. I am going to laugh as the Kyuubi spills the blood of this village. Any and all friends you have here will die and I will laugh as they are all slaughtered, exclaimed Obito while he launched himself at Naruto with pure taijutsu while his Sharingan eyes were spinning. Difficult to do when you can't even land a hit on me, said Naruto before he caught Obito's fist with his bare hand and kneed the Uchiha in the balls, hard. Your father wouldn't have done that, gasped Obito before Naruto did it again and the struggling Uchiha wondered why he didn't phase through the hit. I'm not my father. And to answer the question no doubt running through your head, the seals I placed on you along with the barrier also nullified your little pussy move. I mean honestly Uchiha, phasing when someone tries to hit you? What? You can't handle a punch from someone? A kick? I've been punched, kicked, stabbed, and poisoned since I was a child. Yet when it comes to taking hits from someone like me, the first thing you want to do is phase through it because of your fear of a little pain. Ha! Some big bad Uchiha you claim to be. Madara must have been desperate to choose you as a student before his death since taking a single hit practically makes you want to pee yourself like a baby, mocked Naruto before quickly head-butting Obito while the Konoha headband on his forehead did extra damage. Seals? When did he put seals on me? Was it his shadow clone? Thought Obito before he was struck again and again by Naruto with the blonde shattering the Uchiha's right leg. You are weak Obito. It's no wonder you hid yourself from everyone with that fucking mask. You didn't train. You didn't fight. You simply use your fucking Sharingan eyes to do the leg work. But take the powers of the dojutsu away and fight someone like me on even ground? You're just a weak chicken shit pansy, stated Naruto before taking out a kunai covered in wind chakra and sliced it across Obito's face in an X formation causing both Sharingan eyes out of the Uchiha's sockets. In addition, the piece of him that were the spare Zetsu parts, such as his arm he had taken from storage had been sliced off next. Obito would have screamed out further in pain, but Naruto flipped the kunai until the ring base of the weapon hit the Uchiha right in the jaw 4 times. 2 to the left side and 2 to the right. The force was strong enough to break Obito's jaw entirely and had his tongue cut off next. It wasn't supposed to end this way. My dream. My ambition. I could have been with Rin again. My precious Rin. Thought Obito while blood came out of his mouth while only the darkness of being recently blind was there to greet him. Don't feel back Obito. If you must know, your former teammate Hokage Kakashi is a failure in his own right too. I was his sensei's son. Yet what does he do? He trains the Uchiha on my team and leaves little old me to fend for myself when it came to training. And do you know what happened next? My said teammate goes rogue, using those very same skills my sensei taught him against me. To kill me. All for the sake of power. All to kill his fucking, far more experienced as a ninja for a big brother. Well, it doesn't matter anymore. After today, the Uchiha clan will be no more. The clan will be dead and will only be a myth or story parents tell their children, said Naruto before slicing off Obito's real hand at the wrist. I need to do something. Anything. Minato-sensei. Kushina-san. Rin-chan. Hell, even Kakashi-baka. Someone, please help me. Thought Obito before he heard Naruto's final words to him. Goodbye Obito. May you and the rest of your power-hungry clan rot in the lowest pits of hell alongside Orochimaru, Kabuto, Danzo, and the other members of the Akatsuki you helped bring into its ranks. Shinra-tensei. Exclaimed Naruto while using a move that Konan had told him about and explained further that any other powers the Rinnegan was capable of doing would reveal themselves in time. That was how Nagato did it, and he didn't really share all of his skills with her. As for Obito, he was completely obliterated from existence. All that was left was a dark black blood smear on the ground. Something Naruto burned for good measure. He didn't want anyone trying to collect DNA samples from the Uchiha's remains. Good job, Naruto. At this rate, you will bleed the treasury dry of funds with all of the missing nin you have been killing off, commented Tsunade while the 3 squads of Anbu were behind her in case things went south for Naruto in the barrier. Yeah, well, it is what it is, said Naruto before the barrier went down. I was expecting more from him, remarked Tsunade about Obito. The guy hasn't been in a real fight since the one he had with my father the night I was born. Even when he did, the jerk was evasive. Always using his Sharingan to even the odds against him with the phasing and teleportation he used, answered Naruto while wondering how his father could have been challenged by Obito at the time. Though to be fair, the man was dealing with rescuing his newborn son, his wife who just gave birth to said son, and a giant 9-tailed fox rampaging around Konoha. Your actions will no doubt reach the other shinobi villages. If the Tsuchikage doesn't have a heart attack soon after hearing how you killed off so many missing nin, he will once word of your heritage reaches his ears, said Tsunade, knowing it wouldn't be long before she had to announce Naruto's heritage to the village and the storm it brought with it. So long as he and Iwa lets old grudges die with my father, I don't give a crap. But if he starts something, I will end it, said Naruto while Tsunade nodding since she respected him for that. While Minato struck fear into the heart of Iwa and the Sandaimate Tsuchikage during the Third Shinobi War with his Hiraishin no Jutsu, Naruto and what he just did to so many S-rank missing nin would make them shit their pants. I hate to say it, brat, but at this rate, you'll take the hat from me in another 2 or 3 years, commented Tsunade while Naruto smirked. Maybe I should get it sooner. Having to walk in on you nursing a major hangover from drinking too much the previous night seems a valid enough reason to give me the hat, said Naruto while Tsunade glared at him. Watch it, brat. I can still punch you all the way to Nami if you piss me off, threatened Tsunade and shaking her fist at him. What was that? Did you say something? Asked Naruto while giving her an eye smile. Oh, that's it. Come here, brat. I'm going to smash your face in, exclaimed Tsunade while she chased Naruto around the training ground and the Anbu watching now sporting a sweat drop coming down the back of their masked heads. Should we say something? Asked one Anbu ferret while watching Tsunade try, and fail, to smash her fist into Naruto. Who at that point leapt into the air and flipped her the bird and blew a raspberry at the woman. Do you want to die or be sent to the ER and ICU? Asked the Anbu captain while they saw Tsunade looking livid and continued her pursuit of Naruto into Konoha. That depends. Do I get hazard pay? And if I do, how much? Asked the ferret Anbu while hearing Tsunade cursing Naruto the deeper they went into Konoha. In order? No. And even if you did, it wouldn't be enough to cover your medical bills, said the Anbu captain since he knew Ferret had been looking for an excuse to get some form of vacation time. Though there were less painful ways to do it. Konoha Hospital Jiraiya's room later that night, sleeping well Uro-sennin? Asked Naruto while walking into the room casually. So, you have come crawling back to me. I knew you would, grumbled Jiraiya while Naruto smirked and stepped out of the darkness and showed the Sannin his eyes. You couldn't be more further from the truth. The Akatsuki is no more. Your former student Nagato is dead. Your second student, Konan, gave me the man's eyes to use how I see fit. The Uchiha who freed the fox from my mother is dead too. I killed him. I have done what you could not twice over. I avenged your pathetic sensei by killing his most favorite of students. And I avenged my parents by killing the man who murdered them through his machination the night I was born, said Naruto while Jiraiya grit his teeth in anger and frustration. You shouldn't have those eyes. They are not meant for an immature brat like you, said Jiraiya bitterly. And who do you think is a better choice? You? Kakashi? Maybe some other person who is a big fan of your cheap smut perhaps? Do you honestly think Tsunade or even Konan would trust these eyes to a whiny man-child like yourself? They would sooner revive the infamous Uchiha Madara and start the next shinobi war before entrusting you with such things, said Naruto coldly while Jiraiya glared at him with an intense amount of hate. And you are a better choice? A whiny brat who couldn't handle the QB and whined like a baby when I didn't give him his bottle? Countered Jiraiya angrily. First, I am a far better choice over you Uro-sennin. The toads did what you could not and would not do. They took my training seriously. They saw greatness. They knew your way of doing things was a fast track to a quick death simply because you didn't do shit. As for whining like a baby? Aren't you being tad hypocritical? How many times did you whine to your feces throwing sensei when he favored the snake over you in terms of your training? How many times did you whine when no one gave you the respect you claimed to deserve for peeping successfully on women for one day without being brutally beaten to a pulp? How many times did you whine when my mother viciously stopped you from mooching off my father and his fame during his shinobi career? Do not speak to me about whining and not getting my bottle from you, Uro-senin. We both know you have been trying to milk multiple bottles for years just to stay relevant. As of right now, the tap for any such bottles is officially turned off, said Naruto coldly while Jiraiya was livid at being told his attempts to stay in the limelight and cast his shadow were now over. If he only knew Naruto destroyed the statue using explosive tags filled with nature chakra to turn the area underneath Ame, with Konan's assistance, into a giant sinkhole. You can't do this to me. People will know something is happening when I'm not around. Important people. People who read my books. People who love my smut. When they find out you and Tsunade are keeping me like this, they will march here as an army to liberate my person, stated Jiraiya while mentally envisioning his newly formed army of loyal readers, both civilian and shinobi alike, storming Konoha to free him from this hospital of a prison. Don't be so full yourself. You're not that important. You're lucky I'm paying for your funeral, said Naruto before he started walking away. Funeral? What are you talking about? I'm not dead. Protested Jiraiya angrily while he saw Naruto stop and look back to smirk. Officially, you will be labeled dead tomorrow. Source? A couple hundred STDs found in your system had mutated into one big superbug that caused your dick to fall off, your testicles to shrivel up, and ultimately cause your heart to explode from the stress. As for the real story, you are going to fade away in here. In the darkness of this room. All alone. Slowly wasting away, said Naruto while Jiraiya looked shocked. What? You can't do this to me, exclaimed Jiraiya with Naruto smirking. This is your punishment, Uro-senin. I beat you in combat. I surpassed you in just about every single way. Wasn't hard to do actually, commented Naruto while Jiraiya seethed in his body cast and glaring at the boy. I'll heal eventually, brat. I always do. And when I get out of here, the world will know the truth, exclaimed Jiraiya while Naruto suddenly turned around and became deadly serious before walking over to the now slightly afraid Sannin. The truth? Truth? You want to talk about the truth? How about I reveal the truth of how you kept so much from me? Or used an old toad beyond his prime to see into a possible future and use it for your own goals? How you provoked the people to turn on Orochimaru, resulting in him joining Danzo's route, allowing the War Hawk to twist his mind, and becoming the very monster Konoha has feared for years. Or how you and the Sandaime lied to me for years just so the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would remain stupidly loyal to people who hate him. Maybe I should reveal the truth about how you knew I was your godson and the son of the Yondaime Hokage and still treated me like I was just a mindless weapon to control? Or how about the truth that you have forced female spies in your network to sleep with you or else information about their past is revealed? I'm sure a lot of people would love to know the truth about how the great and gallant Jiraiya of the Sannin got off on practically raping the women within his own spy network both before and after getting information from them, right? Asked Naruto coldly while Jiraiya was now shocked, afraid, and angry all mixed together. You would do that to me? You would destroy my great reputation? My greatness? To your own godfather? Demanded Jiraiya angrily at what Naruto was threatening to do. You have no greatness. You have no great reputation. Only an infamous one where the people look at you with disgust. Besides, it's the truth. And another painful truth for you is this, they hate you, Jiraiya. No likes you. No one loves. No one cared about you. They only tolerate you because of your smut, and even that is a stretch. So you can choose to die with only a small sliver of dignity in this room, or you can resist and have your sins exposed to the world with the people demanding you suffer a violent death, exclaimed Naruto angrily before grabbing Jiraiya's cast-covered skull and yanked him painfully forward at a painful angle. I should have killed you as a baby. I was so tempted to do it. The source of my student's death. The source of the village's pain. I could have done it and achieved such a glorious praise from the villagers and shinobi who suffered from the creature's destruction. The only thing that stayed my hand was your usefulness as its weapon and the fact the Bijou would reform in 9 years with no Uzumaki around to hold it, confessed Jiraiya while Naruto narrowed his eyes at him. And leave your precious village defenseless? We both know a shinobi village needs its Jinchuriki far more than a Jinchuriki needs a shinobi village. Do not act like the value of your life is far greater than someone like myself. It's not. You are worthless, Jiraiya. You have always been worthless. The only reason no one has called you out on the truth of the matter is most likely because there were people who wouldn't tolerate it coming to light. Most likely out of it pity, but that's beside the point, countered Naruto while Jiraiya was seething in rage at the insults being aimed at him and hitting where it hurt the most. You will never bring peace to the world and fulfill the prophecy with that attitude, remarked Jiraiya with Naruto smirking. Who said I was going to bring peace to the world or fulfill some damn prophecy you're itching to see happen? I'm not. In a few years, I'm going to be the next Hokage. I will have my dream and ambition come true. If Iwa wants to start a war, let them. If Kumo wants to join in the fighting, let them. I will personally crush anyone who tries to take away my village. My home. My previous people who live Konoha. I'll see to it that the enemies I face suffer such losses that they piss themselves silly and have nightmares at the very mention of my name. Not yours. Mine. So enjoy your time in the darkness here, Jiraiya. Enjoy the solitude. This is your punishment for being the pathetic loser who was so desperate to get out of the shadows of his betters, set things in motion that caused all sorts of problems for the world. In many ways, the prophecy you want to see fulfilled is where one of your students has to clean up your fucking mess. As far as I'm concerned, your mess will be removed through the sands of time. Let it do the work in fixing what you broke, said Naruto before leaving the room. Naruto. Get back here, you little shit. I won't be denied what is mine. Naruto. Naruto, yelled Jiraiya angrily and didn't realize the blonde had put a paralysis seal on his face when grabbing him through the body cast, so it was impossible to move out of the bed. It would be the last time someone ever saw Jiraiya alive ever again. Epilogue: years later, true to his word, Naruto became the 6th Hokage of Konoha. Much to the displeasure of some people in the village. But considering there were few alternative choices, those who opposed it were silenced since Naruto was the strongest shinobi in Konoha. Not only that, but Naruto's heritage was finally revealed to the populace once ascending to the position of power. Many were shocked by this and realized how much the boy looked like his father while wondering why they didn't notice it sooner. Many people blamed the Sandaime Hokage, the elders, Danzo, and Jiraiya for holding the truth from them from the start, if not for the longest time. They claimed if the truth had come out, the man's son would have been protected since his birth. Naruto felt they were just being shallow. In his eyes, it shouldn't have mattered if he was the Yondaime's son or not. He was still Naruto and was the one holding the angry Bijou from destroying Konoha. If they couldn't accept him as a hero without his father's name attached to it from the beginning, the people were not truly loyal. Just a bunch of morons who were more vain, if not foolish in terms of position than even he realized. Morons he was going to have to properly educate in truly seeing the gravity of their sheer stupidity so the next generation wasn't so stupid as them. The first thing Naruto did as Hokage was to add an understanding of Fuinjutsu to the class curriculum for the students. Much to the disapproval to some people on the council, since not everyone had a skill for it. Why add something that was not for everyone? Naruto told them even if they couldn't do Fuinjutsu, it didn't mean the students couldn't understand the principles or understanding the nature of Fuinjutsu. Not only that, but Naruto had felt the system of knowing only 3 jutsus in order to graduate was just not enough for academy students to become Jonin. Hence why he ordered more that in addition to those 3, the academy would have to go through a chakra level test, chakra affinity level test, and have all academy students in their assigned class rotate into random teams taking on special training missions. These type of missions would be assignments handed out by the Chunin Academy instructors to see who among the academy students worked well together. That way, when teams' assignments were decided, the ability to work well together would be a key factor. As for choosing a Jounin sensei, the Jounins themselves could request a pre-made squad, but no customizations unless necessary. Also, the Jounin in question would have to give a long list of reasons why they would be qualified to teach the Jonin squad they wanted. If you couldn't produce a valid reason, it wouldn't happen. As for chakra level testing, it was well known that Rock Lee didn't have chakra to use, and Naruto himself had more than the previous Hokages put together. As such, Naruto wanted to ensure those with such unique circumstances would have a chance to graduate with their fellow classmates. If an academy instructor saw a student was producing too much or too little chakra when taking the tests, it was to be reported immediately. Saying to a student try harder and not giving them any source material or finding out what was causing the problem wouldn't cut it anymore. If any academy instructor neglected any of their students and used that excuse, they would be fired, and even imprisoned for it on the charges of sabotaging a potential shinobi of Konoha. Some protested his decisions for one reason or another. Some said such things would be expensive to incorporate into the academy. Others said it would risk showing favoritism to some of the academy students. Others said such programs were not meant for young academy students. What was Naruto's response? The answer was tough shit. He told them that the current batch of students the academy was producing were weak Shin'an. All of them were placed with a Jounin, who spent very little time evaluating the team, and said Jounin also being forced to pick up the slack if the team passed the test given. It was unacceptable. In addition, Naruto had retired shinobi or those too injured to be active anymore, come out to the academy to teach part-time to help pass down their own knowledge to the next generation. Providing survival training information, past mission assignments, and all of the information from them. They were put in scenarios, under strict supervision, where all they had were each other, their wits, and very few supplies. Sometimes the scenarios had involved no supplies at all, but the clothing they had on them. To provide an insight into the life of being a shinobi so the next generation did not think it was all about fame, glory, rescuing princesses, and daimyos like some of the academy students thought the lifestyle entailed. The fact Naruto had done and achieved such things didn't mean they would in his place. Still, the end result of his decision quickly produced results with the Shin'an that came out of the academy being more prepared for the real world. Teamed with those they knew and worked with the best with their given skills, and a Jounin who was forced to sit down and actually read their profiles instead of just going for the Shin'an test first and decide on how to train them later approach. If Jounin were going to train their Shin'an teams, they were damn well going to put in the goddamn effort. As for the paperwork, Tsunade thought the boy would be pulling out his hair at the sheer mountain of it. Imagine her surprise when he made 5 shadow clones and had them do all the work while he kicked up his feet with a knowing smirk. When Tsunade angrily called him on not only knowing how to defeat paperwork, but also knew how to do it for years, and didn't tell her at all, Naruto just smiled at the woman. Perhaps I did know how. But if I told you, all the hard work, and the responsibility of running the village would have never truly hit its mark on an old hag like you. Tsunade's response? She tried to strangle Naruto and had to be held back by 2 squads of Anbu, Shizune, Guy, without his weights, and Kakashi using Sharingan to eventually put her to sleep. And all the while, Naruto had a knowing smile on his face. It was good to be him in the seat of power. That and revenge on Tsunade for being a neglectful member of his family was sweet. As for Kakashi, the new Hokage wasn't about to let the man get away in life without being punished swiftly, yet very much cruelly. And by cruel, Naruto was thinking of something truly diabolical, if not something close to a war crime. The punishment for Kakashi? He must avoid being hugged in a vice grip by Guy. While that doesn't sound so bad, Kakashi has to do it for 1 week straight. Again, nothing too cruel about such a punishment at first glance, except that Guy would be completely naked. Yes. Naked. No weights. No clothing. No hiding his youthfulness to the world. But to give Kakashi a somewhat fighting chance of escape, Guy would be covered in grease, and had to hold on to Kakashi for a good 30 minutes to make it stop ahead of the week's end. Why would Guy agree to this? Because Naruto played on his pride of never refusing an actual challenge, and the hint the new Hokage gave of Guy not being able to carry out his mission/challenge would look badly on the Jounin's record. It was only natural Guy would jump at the thought of completing such a challenge, while Kakashi got on his hands and knees and begged Naruto with crying eyes to reconsider this harsh punishment. Naruto of course looked Kakashi right in the eye and said 5 simple, yet earth-shattering words. Not a chance in hell. Needless to say, the entire week was pure hell for Kakashi. He spent it running through the village, dodging, ducking, running, leaping, digging, and everything else short of all out flying in the air to avoid Guy's naked form trying to hug him. While he could have let the extremely weird, and naked, man hug him for 30 minutes and be done with the entire punishment Naruto laid out for him, Kakashi still had some measure of pride in himself, and as a man, what little was left, in not being hugged like that. Unfortunately, even he underestimated Guy's persistence in carrying out his mission. On the last day of dodging the naked man, a picture of a supposedly long-lost Icha Paradise book was being sold, which distracted Kakashi for a solid 5 seconds. Those 5 seconds were all Guy needed to leap onto Kakashi from behind in a massive bear hug from which there was no escape. His screams were heard throughout the village for miles. This incident aside, Naruto's progress with his new reforms got the attention of Iwa and Kumo too, since neither one liked the idea of the Yondaime's offspring having the title of Hokage. Both had poor history with the man for one reason or another, and the fact he was also the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was irrelevant. Well, for Kumo it was irrelevant since they didn't see Jinchuriki mindless creatures. Iwa was pissed off and scared all the same. Jinchuriki were seen as weapons of war and had no rights as far as they were concerned. You didn't give a weapon free will to think on who it could and could not fight. As such, Iwa made sure their two Jinchuriki were repeatedly disciplined at a young age, told they were weapons of war, had no rights, no real purpose outside of fighting for Iwa, and to have any form of independent thought was treasonous. And naturally, true to their previous actions regarding Konoha, the two Kages conspired to take Konoha down. Or rather, attempt to take Naruto down. Something which Naruto knew would most likely happen long before being mentioned offhand somewhere, and had a reformatted spy network cover things for him both inside and outside of the village. And truth be told, the 6th Hokage was no longer surprised by the sheer volume or level of information he obtained from it. As it turned out, Iwa along with Kumo were being secretly helped by a small sect of the civilian and even shinobi within Konoha who hated Naruto. It didn't matter if his father was the former Yondaime Hokage or not. They hated his reforms, his changes to policies, and the fact those who wronged him were punished one way or another further fueled them to secretly commit treason. They had even hired several of Danzo's route that went into hiding. The old war hawk had not put these men on his secret roster yet due to how recent the time was when entering into its ranks just before his death. They apparently felt they owed Danzo to kill the one who ended his life and destroy the village rather than see their lord's murders have it in his place. Such a spiteful bunch. It didn't take long to round up all the traitors within the village and put them to the sword after revealing their crimes to the masses. He had already sent copies of the proof to the Fire Daimyo to further validate his decision to execute them all before anyone within Konoha became a possible sympathizer and knew people with influence who could make some appeal on a guilty person's behalf. As for Iwa and Kumo, they were met with quick, but brutal beatdowns by Naruto along with his chosen Onbu squad he assigned himself when reports came in of incursions from both villages. Each time Naruto was on the battlefield, he sent the enemy shinobi back to their villages in pieces with a warning each time with one survivor to tell both Kages to back off or else. They chose or else when both Kages sent their two Jinchuriki against Naruto in the hopes the numbers from both Bijou from their respected sides would be to their advantage. Only for Iwa to lose both Jinchuriki to Naruto after killing the Iwa Onbu with them and the Hokage meeting everyone within a shared mindscape where they could talk without any interruption. After removing the various seals that were on Han and Roshi to ensure they were punished should they possibly step out of line, Naruto took them home back to Konoha. Keeping their status as Jinchuriki a secret, the 6th Hokage merely called them defectors who wished to leave the cruelty of Iwa behind for greener pastures. Naturally, it raised a stink with the Tsuchikage, who demanded the return of his weapons when the daimyos had called for a sit-down to prevent a war from happening. Naruto's diplomatic response was, if you didn't want to lose either one, they shouldn't have been on the front lines. Not to mention how they were treated since birth and how Iwa saw them as things instead of people. Throwing down stolen files and showing just how Iwa treated Jinchuriki since the Shodaime Hokage divided up the Bijou in order to promote peace. This was, in many ways, Naruto's response to the Tsuchikage as an Uzumaki. Which was, in a sense, a big fuck you. With two middle fingers to the old man. As for Kumo, B was given his own beat down, as was Ni Yugito when they fought Naruto in battle. When an offer was made to join Konoha, they refused, as the two were loyal to their village. Still, the fact Naruto beat both Jinchuriki at their best, and barely looked winded made the Raikage rethink his aggressive strategy aimed at taking down his late rival's son. Which was unknowingly the smart move on the Raikage's part since Naruto intended to cripple A and Kumo in the event he didn't back off. Not only that, but given how Naruto had the sage's eyes, both the 8 and 2-tailed Bijou told their vessels that under no circumstances would they give their power to fight the blonde Hokage. Not just because of Kurama sealed inside of the man, but the eyes were those of their father. To them, it would be as if they were fighting the very man who gave them all life. Not only that, but the 7-tailed Jinchuriki named Fu had found her way into Konoha after running away from Taki. When asked why she came, the green-haired girl told him that Chome had heard through her bond with the other Bijou of your actions. She wanted to be free of the hatred her village had for her and to not be treated like an attack dog for them. In fact, Fu had never set foot in Taki, but was always speaking to a handler, who had sent orders from the Taki Shinobi Council to protect their village or else face the ever-painful consequences. And naturally, such a story pissed Naruto off to no end since it wasn't fair to Fu in the slightest that she had to fight for jerks in a village they wouldn't let her even live in. Naturally, an envoy from Taki came after hearing Fu was there. The man practically that Konoha surrender their weapon immediately. Banging his fists on the Hokage's desk, ranting and raving about village security, and the threat of denying aid to Konoha during wartime if they didn't have their property back. How they would do everything in their power to aid Konoha's enemies and see to it the village was burned to the ground with Taki taking everything and anything they want. Naruto's response to the threat? The answer was beating the living shit out of him and send the asshole to Ibiki for answers. As it turned out, the man was part of a group of Taki nin waiting outside of Konoha for him as well as Fu. Once the girl was in their possession, they were to bring her back to Taki, where the bijou would be ripped out, and placed in a new Jinchuriki. One where they could remold into being a loyal attack dog and a boundary seal they were working on to keep their Jinchuriki within a certain radius of their village. If the Jinchuriki went past the boundary, the seal would activate, shocking the user, and alert the assigned Taki nins to bring their target back to be punished. To make matters worse, the group of Taki nin intended to take certain liberties with Fu along the way back to their village. If she got pregnant along the way as a result didn't bother them, as none would acknowledge the child. Not only that, but the child might be used anyway as the new Jinchuriki while Fu herself was kept unconscious in a medically induced coma the entire time during the pregnancy. With that in mind, Naruto ordered 2 Anbu squads to find the exact location where the group of Taki nin were located. After they did, the orders were to kill all of them, and put all the bodies in a large crate. Once the order was carried out, Naruto had said crate, dripping blood from the dead bodies, strapped to the back of the Taki nin envoy, and told him to return back to his village with what little dignity he had left while delivering a message to those running Taki. Try this shit again and I'll burn your fucking village to the ground with the giant tree you have being turned into the world's largest pile of ash. I will do what Hashirama did not have the balls to do and what Uchiha Madara could have only dreamed of doing should you so much as even think up a plan like that again. Needless to say, Taki did not complain about the loss of Fu ever again. As for Kiri, they had decided to stay neutral in regards to Konoha since they were still recovering from the past sins of a Sharingan-influenced Yagura. But Naruto had been able to square away some measure of goodwill toward them by returning Seimata to them as well as letting them know where Kubi Kiribocho was located in Wave. He only asked that if they took the sword from the grave of Momochi Zabuza, a suitable and respectful grave marker be put in its place. In addition, he asked that the grave next to Zabuza's not be disturbed under any circumstances. If it was, Naruto made it very clear that Kiri would wish they were still fighting their civil war with Yagura again. Needless to say, Kiri had no intention of provoking the 6th Hokage with a threat like that, and knowing Naruto had the power to back it up. As for Suna, it was on good terms with Naruto. With Gaara being Kazekage, it helped in that regard since both men had mutual respect for one another given what they both went through growing up. Add to the fact that Temari married a certain lazy Nara Shikamaru to further cement their alliance between their two villages. Naruto found it hysterical that Shikamaru's feet were consumed in sand, Gaara's, to keep him from running while Naruto himself performed the marriage ceremony. The lazy Nara had gotten the woman pregnant months prior to it and Gaara had demanded, see any and all terms and definitions pertaining to threats of inflicting painful bodily harm, that one Nara Shikamaru marry his sister right away when the news reached him about it. The Nara would have tried to flee in terms of taking a long S-ranked mission, but any attempt was stopped by Naruto, who smirked at the pleading Nara at the time, and Shikamaru's mother Nara Yoshino in the room with them. The strict woman was carrying her ever fear-inducing frying pan of doom before she dragged the pleading lazy bastard out of his office while he left nail marks all along the floor in the process. And yet despite the whole thing being troublesome, Naruto knew that Shikamaru was a happily married man. Sure, he took a few hits to the head via Temari's iron fan, but nothing Shikamaru couldn't take given his track record with his own mother with her frying pan. It was a Nara family tradition for the wife to give their husband the occasional hit to the skull when they were being lazy, or calling their wife troublesome. As for Naruto himself, he had planned to rebuild his clan with the aid of the women in his life who cared about him. Those individuals in his life were Hyuga Hinata, Mitarashi Anko, Shizuka. She came after him again after doing much soul searching in her life and was able to prove herself worthy, but had lived in Konoha, and his just distance enough cousin Uzumaki Karen, after finding her in one of Orochimaru's labs. They had found out about Naruto wanting to rebuild the Uzumaki clan and decided they would help him in that regard. It was the least they could do for him outside of their own love for the blonde Uzumaki considering he had helped them out on multiple levels. Even now, Hinata was expected to give birth soon to their son Boruto. She was going through the painful contractions, crying out in pain, trying to crush Naruto's hand with her now suddenly obtained super strength granted to her from the pain. Ah! You did this to me. Suffer. Suffer as I suffer, yelled Hinata while she kept trying to crush his hand and her eyes were blazing with fury. Only Naruto wasn't feeling any of the pain. How is this possible? The answer lay in the Fuinjutsu he put on his hand. Hinata was currently squeezing in a bone-crushing grip. The seal he put on it would transfer the pain to someone else who unknowingly had a seal on their hand. As to the unsuspecting person, well, with Shikamaru, Why? Why? Why am I feeling so much pain? Yelled Shikamaru while gripping his hand and rolling around on the floor. Serves the lazy bum right. He actually tried to get a long-term mission around the time I was going into labor with our child. Crushing his hand during the contractions was too merciful. This is so much better to watch and see from this perspective, thought Temari with a smirk while feeding their child and seeing her husband suffer. Naruto had secretly put the seal on Shikamaru after the man had fainted from the pain he got from holding Temari's hand during her pregnancy. It wasn't hard to convince her to let him do it in secret given Suna woman's hormonally imbalanced state when giving birth. The angry, at the time, woman demanded the lazy bum suffer long after she had brought their child into the world, and Naruto's proposition fit in perfectly with her form of revenge. Why aren't you helping me? It hurts, yelled Shikamaru while Temari just watched Shikamaru rolling around in the ground in the pain while their child laughed at the man's suffering. Back with Naruto, I am not giving you another child after this. Never, yelled Hinata while she glared at Naruto while he looked completely calm despite the vice grip his wife had on his hand currently turning purple from the strength applied to it. They say that now, but later will come the apologies, kissing, groping, and apology sex that comes with it, thought Naruto from his past experience with Anko, Shizuka, and Karen with their pregnancies. Naruto was actually surprised Shikamaru didn't realize what was wrong with his hand or suspected what was wrong had been done by him. Then again, the man was dealing with his own wife, their child, Gaara as a brother-in-law, and the overwhelming pain the seal on Shikamaru's hand sent when Naruto's wives tried to hurt their husband when in labor. Oh well. Best not to think of it. After all, why make the Nara suspicious? Finn.